Welcome to the Restricted Handling Daily Intel Brief. Let's dig in. Here's what's been going on in Russia in the last 24 hours. Europe's eastern flank has a live spillover problem, and this one is no longer just about debris in a field or another angry diplomatic note. On Friday, Romania treated a Russian strike spillover as the most serious security incident on its territory since the start of Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. A Russian Geran 2, also known as a Shahed-type drone, hit an apartment block in Galați, a Romanian city near the Danube and close to Ukraine's Odessa region port corridor. 2 people were injured, around 70 residents were evacuated, and President Nicu Șordan convened Romania's Supreme Defense Council. That matters because Romania is not some distant observer. It is NATO. It is the EU. It shares a long border with Ukraine. And the Danube route has become one of the key pressure points in this war because Russia keeps targeting Ukrainian export infrastructure near Reni and Izmail. So now the problem is simple and very uncomfortable. Moscow's campaign against Ukraine is creating direct physical risk inside Allied territory. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte spoke with Dan and said the alliance is ready to defend every inch of Allied territory. Romania summoned Russia's ambassador and asked NATO to speed up anti-drone support. Officials in Bucharest said the drone was inside Romanian airspace for only about 4 minutes and flew low, which made it difficult to detect and risky to engage over a populated area. That is the hard part. This is not a video game where someone just clicks intercept. In a city, every defensive shot has consequences. European reaction came fast. Ursula von der Leyen said Russia had crossed another line. The UK, Germany, France, Denmark, Czechia, and the US ambassador to NATO all condemned Moscow's behavior. Ukraine's message was direct. This is what happens when Russian attacks keep pushing against the Black Sea region. The war leaks outward. NATO has to decide, again and again, how to deter escalation without accidentally creating more of it. Classic Kremlin behavior, really. Create chaos, deny responsibility, then act surprised when the neighbors start locking the doors. There is also a bigger diplomatic backdrop. Russia is still threatening more systematic strikes against Kyiv. At the UN Security Council, U.S. Deputy Ambassador Tammy Bruce gave one of Washington's sharper rebukes of Moscow, warning Russia not to follow through on threats to hit so-called decision-making centers in the Ukrainian capital. Russia's ambassador, Vasily Nebenzia, brushed that aside and repeated the warning that foreign diplomats should leave Kyiv. That is not subtle messaging. That is Moscow trying to make the city feel politically radioactive. Zelenskyy is responding by hammering the same point to partners. Ukraine needs more air defense. He has asked President Donald Trump and Congress for more Patriot systems and interceptors. Senator Richard Blumenthal and Representative Jim Himes, after meeting Zelenskyy in Kyiv, said they would push for more support when they return to Washington. Himes also made a revealing point. U.S. conversations about Ukraine are being complicated by the war with Iran, which is consuming military resources that Kyiv also needs. That is the global supply problem in one sentence. Everyone wants interceptors. Nobody has a magic warehouse behind the curtain. Continuing the air defense thread, Sweden just moved from discussion to a much more concrete fighter plan. On Thursday, May 28th, Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson and Zelenskyy announced that Sweden will donate 16 Gripens CD fighters to Ukraine in early 2027. Ukraine will also buy 20 newer Gripen E-jets, with deliveries expected from 2030. Kyiv is using €5 billion from the EU's €90 billion loan package for that purchase, and Zelenskyy still wants the long-term number to reach as many as 150 Gripens. The near-term impact is not instant. Nobody should expect Gripens to show up tomorrow morning like a Marvel portal opened over Uppsala. But strategically, this is a serious European air power pathway for Ukraine. The Gripen is designed for dispersed operations. It can use shorter runways and roads. It is easier to maintain than many Western fighters. And when paired with Meteor air-to-air missiles, it gives Ukraine a future tool to push Russian aircraft farther back from the front. That is the strategic point. Russia has been using glide bombs from relative sanctuary, launching from positions where Ukrainian forces often cannot easily reach the aircraft. Zelenskyy wants Gripens and meteors to make that sanctuary less comfortable. If Russian pilots have to stay farther away, those glide bombs become less useful. That would not end the war, but it could reduce one of Moscow's nastier advantages. Meanwhile, Ukraine's drone campaign is turning Russia's rear area into a very expensive anxiety machine. Ukrainian officials say mid-range strikes have quadrupled since February. These are not just symbolic hits. Kyiv is going after logistics, air defenses, fuel infrastructure, command sites, and transport routes far behind the front. Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov announced another 5 billion hryvnias for the most effective mid-strike units, which tells you Ukraine sees this as a core strategy, not a side project. The strategic effect is bigger than the target list. Russian commanders now have to protect refineries, rail links, depots, air defense sites, oil infrastructure, and roads that used to feel safe. Ukrainian strikes have reached from occupied Crimea and the Donbass rear all the way into Russia's own energy system. Russian buyers are now turning sharply toward Belarusian gasoline, with purchases in May far above last year's levels. That is not a great look for an energy superpower. When the gas station starts asking the neighbor for fuel, something has gone sideways. Moscow is adapting, but the adaptation says a lot. Russian authorities are reportedly allowing private companies to buy heavier defensive equipment to protect industrial sites. We are talking air defense equipment, radars, electronic warfare systems, specialized vehicles, and mobile fire groups built from reservists, volunteers, and company personnel. In Moscow, a Pantsir air defense system was placed on top of Nordstar Tower near sensitive military and intelligence facilities. That image is doing a lot of work. The capital of a nuclear power is putting air defense on skyscrapers because Ukraine has made distance feel negotiable. There is also a command and control problem inside Russia's war machine. ISW assessed that Putin may be receiving exaggerated battlefield reporting from senior military leaders. A leaked Russian Defense Ministry map reportedly overstated Russian control around Orikhiv and Zaporizhia. Similar claims around Kupiansk have also looked far more confident in Moscow's telling than in observable battlefield reality. That matters because dictatorships are great at producing reports the boss wants to hear. They are less great when the boss then makes decisions based on fantasy cartography. The actual battlefield picture is slower and uglier for Russia. ISW assessed that Russian forces seized 104 square kilometers in Ukraine from the start of 2026 through May 26. During the same period in 2025, they seized more than 1,600. Russian forces are still pressuring multiple sectors, and Ukraine is still under serious strain. But the tempo is not matching Moscow's big talk. Ukraine has also made recent gains in parts of the Veliki Burluk and Oleksandrivka directions, while Russia has made some movement in Sumy Oblast. That is the one battlefield paragraph for today. Russia is still pushing, but the return on effort looks increasingly thin. The Black Sea is another pressure zone. Ukrainian officials said Russian drones attacked 3 foreign-flagged merchant vessels along Ukraine's maritime export corridor, causing fires and injuring crew on at least one ship. Separately, 3 tankers tied to Russia's shadow oil trade were attacked off Turkey's Black Sea coast, with no immediate claim of responsibility. This is where war, commerce, sanctions, and maritime risk all start sharing the same crowded room. Insurance markets, shipping companies, port operators, and governments are all watching. Inside Russia, the Kremlin is showing insecurity on more than one front. Moscow has launched arrests targeting officials in Muslim spiritual directorates, the institutions the state has long used to manage Islamic communities. Analysts warn this could backfire by increasing alienation among Muslim populations, especially after years of disproportionate wartime burden on some regions. And then there is Putin's longevity push. The Kremlin is backing a massive anti-aging initiative involving gene therapy, organ printing, xenotransplantation, and senior figures close to Putin, including his daughter Maria Vorontsova and Kurchatov Institute head Mikhail Kovalchuk. It is very on brand. The system is under pressure. The country is militarizing its rooftops and factories, and the top of the pyramid is funding a search for longer life. The Soviet Union chased plenty of strange scientific dreams too, but this one has a special flavor. Call it Kremlin wellness, with air defenses on the roof. Thanks for listening and for being part of this community. If you want to support the show, leaving a review or a thoughtful comment helps others discover it. We also share a daily written intel brief on Substack, restrictedhandling.substack.com, where we go deeper on Russia and China, along with broader coverage of Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK. Wishing you a great day ahead.